Hello, everybody. Welcome to another video from the Powerbomb Project. I am one of your hosts, Daniel, joined by my other two hosts.
It's Berman.
Hey, Chris.
And today we are here to talk about every WWE, AEW, and Ring of Honor premium live event or pay-per-view that took place in 2022, and we're ranking them from the worst to the best. So one or two of us, or maybe even all three of us, will be talking about each pay-per-view, ranking it from, again, as I said, the worst to the best. And yeah, so this is going to be kind of a bit of a longer video, so we're going to try to hurry up with all these as much as possible. So let's dive right into it. So at number 20, the worst show of the year goes to the WWE Royal Rumble 2022. So the opener was actually going pretty well between Seth and Roman, but then there was a stupid DQ. And a lot of people like to excuse it by saying they were trying to tell a story and that the story's not finished. Well, sure, but just because it is telling a story doesn't necessarily make it good. And it's a Big Four pay-per-view world title match. Ending in a DQ is inexcusable. I don't care. Becky versus Doudrop was a really bad match as well. And both Royal Rumble matches underwhelmed with winners who are already established and didn't need the wins, such as Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar. And then, this is all I could say. The Brock and Bobby match, while not bad, it was severely disappointing for what was hyped up. And having Roman cost Brock the Royal Rumble just for Brock to win it later felt incredibly underwhelming. The only good part I could say of this entire show was really when Johnny Knoxville came in the Royal Rumble. So yeah, the show's a mess. I hate it. Well, don't hate it, but I really just don't like it. 3.5 out of 10 is the rating this show is overall, in my opinion.
Honestly, Daniel, I would give it something lower because there was like nothing redeemable about this pay-per-view whatsoever. Because the only thing that was actually kind of good was the Royal Rumble match itself. But as soon as Brock Lesnar's theme came on, we both looked at each other and we both fucking knew. That's it. It's over. Just give Brock Lesnar the fucking match to win the titles or whatever. But the only positive thing I could say about this pay-per-view was Seth freaking Rollins coming out as the Shield, as his old gimmick.
That was cool. That was cool too.
That's literally it. I don't even know why Doudrop was even in here. She sucks. She's mid. She belongs to NXT. And nobody watches that shit.
Damn.
So I'm giving this shit a 2.
All right. Now moving on to number 19. The WWE Elimination Chamber 2022. You got a very dry opener between Roman Reigns and Goldberg. And you got the worst of a main event all year of the Elimination Chamber. And it's honestly one of my least favorite chamber matches ever. You got Brock, AJ, Seth, Riddle, Austin Theory, and let me see if I remember correctly here. It's Bobby Lashley. Yeah, for the WWE title. On paper, really good. That sounds really good. But what happened as soon as Brock came in, he F5'd AJ, he F5'd Seth, and he F5'd Riddle, squashed all of them in seconds as soon as he came in. And Bobby couldn't even physically compete for the rest of the match. So he lost his title without getting pinned or anything. So that's some bullshit. And then you got Lesnar and Theory having this little extended final 2 period where Brock just chases Theory, and you have an underwhelming ass F5 off the top, down into the freaking, chamber floor. But Theory lands on his feet, and it obviously doesn't have any effect behind it whatsoever. And then you got Drew versus Madcap Moss, which was a horrible match because whenever Drew went for a reverse Alabama slam, Madcap Moss literally hit it so hard on his head. It's literally one of the worst looking botches of the year. So yeah, it's just horrible. And then that's really all I could say on it. Naomi and Ronda in that tag match, dry, terrible. And then the Elimination Chamber match for the woman, very forgettable. So overall, the show kind of sucked. 4 out of 10, and that's kind of being nice towards it. Now we move on to number 18, WWE Day 1. So, I guess for Elimination Chamber, you had that one redeemable match in Becky Lynch versus Lita, but for Day 1, that redeemable match is the opener, the New Day versus the Usos. While that's a great match, nothing about this show outside of that is all that great. You got a pretty good match between RK Bro and the Street Profits for the Raw Tag titles. And then what? You got a Lynch and Liv Morgan match that went on for way too long. An Edge and Miz match that was 20 minutes long. Why? Why on earth would anyone want to watch them fight for 20 minutes? That is ridiculous. And then for that match to be 20 minutes, you have the main event Fatal 5-Way be only 8 minutes. Like, what? Like, it should literally be the other way around if you logically think about it. It's asinine. Like, who booked this shit? And you have Brock just dominate everyone again, just like the last time. At least other people got some crap in, but just Brock dominating again because Roman had COVID and couldn't make the show. So they're like, fuck it. Since we can't do Roman versus Brock, let's just throw the title on Brock into a unification match at Mania 38 that nobody asked for. So, yeah, this show is the definition of mid. 5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll probably give it a little bit lower, around a 4, maybe 4.5, because it was very, very mid. There's only one redeeming match. Really, was that Usos match. Usos versus New Day always are great. There's nothing really else that were really big. Every match that Brock Lesnar would have been in, I was so he's gonna win now. Obviously, there's no obvious. Everyone loses to Brock Lesnar, so it's done. So I definitely feel like it's a 4 or 4.5. Only very bad pay-per-view.
Moving on to number 17, Ring of Honor, Death Before Dishonor. Chris, take it away.
Thanks, man. So, you know how we all enjoy the first Ring of Honor pay-per-view? Like, it wasn't anything too crazy. It just made us look forward to the future pay-per-views. I'm like, hey, man, I don't know much about Ring of Honor, but I know some important guys came out of it. But, by God, this is literally one of the most boring-ass pay-per-views I've seen. Out of all the 6 matches, 7 matches,
Yeah,
only one was actually good, and that was Roosh, which his introduction versus Dragon Lee, his brother, was absolutely great. But like everything else was just so fucking boring. And I think the funniest thing that came out of the Ring of Honor Dishonor was Jonathan Gresham, because at the time he was the Ring of Honor World Champion, but he just got absolutely destroyed by Claudio, and he never came back after losing it. He just got so pissed off and went on the rant on Twitter just discussing of how like this is a waste of dropping a title. And then people didn't buy his own thing because he's a little short, but it's whatever. I didn't really enjoy it that much. It was a waste of $40. It's getting a 2. Boring.
Yeah, so he hates it more than all the other pay-per-views, as you guys heard.
And sorry to interrupt, but one last thing. People were saying the second match between FTR versus the Briscoes was great. I don't know what the hell they were talking about, because literally that match was so unbearable to watch. Like nothing was happening. It was boring.
Well, I don't know if I can entirely agree with that. I thought it was definitely boring during some portions, but I can't say it was unbearable. That's a bit much.
It's unbearable. It wasn't as good as the first one, and everyone is just like, oh, it's the greatest fucking thing in the world. No.
Berman, what do you think of the second FTR Briscoes match, personally?
It was, I don't know. I really feel like it was kind of like the mid FTR and Briscoes match, which is sad to say because I love those two. But the first match was way better.
That's fair.
The first match was the best of everything.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to number 16. AEW All Out. This is a show that was honestly pretty dry, if you put it all into consideration. I mean, it had some highlights, like the Elite versus the Dark Order in the finals of the first ever Trios Championship match. You also got a amazing main event between Punk and Mox, despite that obvious countout. You got other huge highlights as well, but you got Jungle Boy getting squashed. You got Jericho and Bryan all having a good match, not playing on as good of a match as they could have. Hobbs versus Starks being literally 5 minutes. It's just way too quick. Jade versus Athena being less than 5 minutes, just way too quick. Oh, wait, and you want to know why some of these matches are so short? Because there are a total of 11 matches on the main show, 4 on the pre-show, making a total of 15 matches overall. What the flying fuck? I'm sorry. Less is more, god damn it. You don't need all these matches just to cut a lot of these matches short. Because Hobbs versus Starks could have been better if there were less matches. Jade versus Athena could have been better if there were less matches. And the ladder match was just a bad ladder match. You just got so much controversy around this show. You got, honestly, the worst FTR match I've ever seen in my life, which was that 6-man tag featuring the Motor City Machine Guns and Jay Lethal, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, just not the best show. It has its highlights, but it's mid. It's just mid. 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. It was not the best AEW pay-per-view of everything. It was way too many matches. That's what the definition of less is more mean. That's really means less fucking things. It was way too many. There was not a lot of redeemable matches, and it sucks that some of the redeemable matches really never mattered after that. Because John Moxley versus CM Punk, CM Punk won it, but after that he got suspended, so he got to relinquish that title right after. And the Trios title is the exact same thing. Elite won it, but then relinquished it, so it never mattered. And they just say, "Oh, well, it never happened." It was like a race from history. So it was very dumb. But I think it was all CM Punk's fault. But still, I think it was not that bad, but it was very mid with a lot of these matches. So definitely 6 out of 10, 100%.
Now we move on to number 15. Berman, take it away.
Now, WrestleMania Backlash was a pretty good one. I did love. There was a few good matches that I did care about, and the main ones were the what's called the trios title, Bloodline versus Drew McIntyre and RK Bro. I didn't expect that to be really good. It was actually pretty good. It was the first time you see the Bloodline fully in a match, and it was pretty good. Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins, number 2. Nice match, how they did that. I can't wait to see Cody Rhodes come back. The Edge versus AJ Styles, it was a great match to see. The SmackDown Women's Championship, I don't really care about Ronda Rousey, but I love quit matches at the same time, so my thing. The Happy Corbin, Matt Kevin and Bobby Lashley, and almost very forgettable. They should have been on SmackDown or Raw, not even a pay-per-view on a Jimmo. So it was not completely bad, but there was 2 matches that didn't supposed to be there. So for me, definitely, I would say, 6.5 for me on this.
Yep, and I'm in the same page as you. The funny thing is, like, with Twitter, me and Daniel, and I'm sure you enjoyed the Edge versus the AJ Styles match that was happening, and people were complaining about this match. People were saying this is the most fucking boring thing I've ever seen in my life, and I'm like, you guys were on crack.
Yeah,
like,
they did it to both matches.
And I'm just like, dude, that was literally the perfection from both artists. And then, quite frankly, my favorite match was surprisingly the Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey, because I thought it was gonna suck and just be a bathroom piss break match, but I was completely wrong, because they literally killed each other, and Ronda Rousey just looked like a beast. It was so much fun. Like, the pay-per-view itself, it was decent, but like you said, Berman, the Corbin matches were like very mid. And I don't even know why at the time they were pushing him so hard with the stupid Happy Corbin gimmick to begin with, because he was in a lot of these pretty much mediocre matches. And the Bloodline versus RK Bro and Drew McIntyre was great. And then as for the Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins, it wasn't my personal favorite, but it was a good follow-up to like their first WrestleMania match they had together. So it wasn't too great, it wasn't too crazy. 2 good matches out of it. I'll give it a 6. It is what it is.
All right. Now we move on to number 14, WWE Hell in the Cell. Chris, take it away.
Ooh, dude. So, the Hell in the Cell was actually quite good. For instance, I really loved the trios match between Bianca Belair, Asuka, and Becky Lynch because even though it started off slow, it definitely picked up more and more as the match kind of go on. Like, I I kind of thought like the match should have taken place in the cell, to be honest, just so they weren't mid carders or anything, they were like more upper tier. But the match, it was great, and it was really cool because there was like even a part where Asuka even hit like a ankle lock. I forgot who she did it towards, but it was good. But definitely the weakest one was that Bobby Lashley versus Omos. It was bad, and I don't know why it was on the pay per view. It was kind of like whatever. And then overall, I think my favorite match, surprisingly, was Theory versus Mustafa Ali. But I think Mustafa should have taken the victory. But I guess he's still losing even to this day under the bookie, which is real same. So hopefully he gets his comeuppance and he can win the title. And I'll just give the pay per view like another 6. It wasn't too crazy, but that is, I believe this is the one with Cody and Seth, right?
Yeah, where Cody had the torn pec in the Hell in a Cell main event.
And then that was like probably the best seller. But unfortunately, that was pretty much his last match after that because he tore his pectoral muscle, right? During like a workout session or whatever. But god damn it, dude. He performed so fucking good in the Hell in a Cell match. It didn't let him stop him. It was brutal. And it was like a good send off until he comes back. So I'll give it a 7. There was a lot of good things.
This is what I'll say. Cody definitely refused to sit out that night. And here's the thing. While I'm very torn on that decision to this day, I am going to respect the performance and say it was an amazing match. Theory versus Mustafa, yes, they had a great match as well. You also have other nice undercard matches throughout the show, like you got the 6 mixed tag going on with Judgment Day. You got the little opener that was solid for the Raw Women's Championship. KO versus Ezekiel, while the rivalry is one of the worst rivalries all year, the match was actually tolerable. That's what I'll say. Yeah, decent show. I'd actually go 7. So, now we move on to number 13, WWE Money in the Bank. Now, a lot of people were mad about Theory becoming Money in the Bank back when it happened. And I remember in the podcast where all 3 of us were talking about it. The thing I disagreed with was how they added Theory in last minute and, made it an 8-man ladder match. And, he didn't really do that much during the Money in the Bank match itself. So I think that was kind of stupid. But I knew Theory was a talented guy. So I wasn't too mad about him originally winning the briefcase. But, Berman, I remember you and Chris, you guys were not happy. Do you guys still feel the sentiment looking back at the Money in the Bank briefcase and where Theory is now? Do you feel like it all worked out in the end?
I think half and half to me. I still don't like that they gave him, but to me, with that Money in the Bank, it gave him pretty much, I call it an evolution pill. He took that pill and made him so much better. He made him no more persona, no more selfies. He became a brand new person, and I think it's the best evolution of Theory so far. So I probably resent a little bit that. I think I say that I don't like that they put him in out of nowhere. If they put him in the match, just saying like on Raw, SmackDown, hey, Theory's gonna be on there, I'm saying perfectly fine with that. But if they just did that one snap, saying, oh wait, let's add a new one just because we're in Las Vegas, which it's cool, but like I don't want to see that crap. But I think Theory's in a good place right now. He took that pill and evolved himself.
Yeah, you know what? I can kind of agree with that. So, overall, you got Liv Morgan getting her moment on the show, which was nice for what it was. The ladder match itself was quite sloppy, and Shotzi nearly died with not really, but she did have a bad landing on a dive. From what I remember, in the back of her head was bleeding, so that kind of sucked. Also on Money in the Bank, you had the great, and I mean great, Usos versus Street Profits match. Usos versus Street Profit match. Freaking amazing. There's this one moment where Alexa Bliss was like doing this advertisement for a credit one, and the crowd just booed so loud. It was kind of funny. I can't even lie. The men's Money in the Bank match itself, while not as strong as last year's men's Money in the Bank match, it was still great. So overall, I thought it was a good show. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I already gave my opinion on the men's tag team. I don't like that, but about the Theory stuff. But I hold off on that because of how Theory is right now. But it was not that bad of a match. I think it was good. Still don't like that it was like out of nowhere. But the women's not that bad. It was very surprising for Liv to win. People thought, oh, he's not. No one's gonna let Liv win because it's not that time. But they did. It was a nice thing for Liv to win. The Bianca match was very, very didn't like. It was Bianca versus Carmella. I don't know why they needed to do that third time, but I don't think they need to. But it was not that. It was boring at the same time. But that Usos and Street Profits probably was one of the best matches of the night. It was amazing. I always love those two going against each other. So they did a great job on there. And there's other matches, but the main ones to speak about were the Usos versus Street Profits were probably the main one. There was Ronda Rousey versus Natalia. Not that bad. I liked the submission was pretty good. I liked it. But to me, it was not that bad. I still have a little resentment with how Pierce threw in Austin Theory, but I'm okay with it for now. So right now, I will give this, I'd probably say 7.5 now.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to cover numbers 12 through 9. Chris and Berman got those next 4. So, starting with number 12, what would that be, Chris?
It would be one of the most funnest things I've ever seen in my life, and the end to Brock Lesnar, the Cowboy.
Oh, this is a word?
Yeah.
No, I'm just fucking with you. Continue.
I hate you. I hope Roman loses. But anyways,
I'm hurt.
Besides the Brock versus Roman and the chaoticness of where he got like a tractor and like literally destroyed the matches, and it took like almost the entirety of the Uso bloodline to defeat him. There was also some great overall matches, like Logan Paul defeating the Miz. I think that was like his first match, wasn't it? When he like came into WWE.
It's his first one-on-one. It's his second overall.
Gotcha. Because literally, it showcased so many. Unfortunately, he didn't have his like finishers, but it was fun overall, and he defeated the Miz, which was a good choice. And then the biggest thing too was Bianca Belair like redeeming herself after like losing to Becky Lynch when we saw that, where she lost like in 10 seconds, which is a damn shame. But she made up for it in this match. And of course, the Pat McAfee match was okay, but the only bad thing I could really say is like Liv Morgan defeating Ronda Rousey, because that was really, really sloppy. And it was like the wrong choice, even though Liv Morgan was going to end up losing anyways to Ronda Rousey down the future. That's like the only bad match I could say. It was fun. There's so many good matches, so I'll just give it a 7.5. Can't complain too much.
Yeah, that's something. So next will be number 11, the ROH Supercard of Honor. That was an amazing pay-per-view. Pretty much the start of the new era of Supercard. There were so many great matches. There was 2 that were unforgettable. The FTR versus Briscoes Championship Tag Team match. One of the best. Number 2 out of the best matches right now. Number 1 is the dog collar match, but the other one was Bandito versus Jonathan Gresham to unify the championships. Those 2 were great. Don't get me wrong, I don't like how Jonathan Gresham acted after he lost it against Claudio, but I respect him because how good he was in that match and how good that submissions he did in that match was great. I loved a lot of the matches, and I think they did a great job on showing it. The Coco Cabana, funny, but not needed that much about it. Worst Strickland match versus Alex Zane. I did love that match. It was pretty fun. I know Danny and Chris. Oh no, I think Danny mainly didn't like Alex Zane because he kind of looked like a Jack Sparrow, like a redneck Jack Sparrow. But I just love him because he's funny. to me, I do love the Supercard of Honor. So definitely let's say 7.5 for Supercard of Honor. The next one, number 10, the WWE Survivor Series Wargames, the most recent one that happened. Now that one was pretty great. There were some very forgettable matches, but were very not good matches. The two Wargames matches were amazing. The women's pretty good, but the men's were number one. The Big Sammy betrayal was one of the best things. Made everyone cry, made everyone yell. Even Danny cried for Sammy, so it was 100% great for Sammy. The Ronda Rousey and Shotzi. Ronda Rousey is a complete asshole for doing that to Shotzi, but she's just sick of the company. She doesn't care about the company, so I don't really care about that much more. The other Survivor Series match was I think the Brock Lesnar, no, not Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley, Seth Rollins, and Theory. That was pretty great. I liked that one. I loved that Theory finally won it. The new Theory, so I'm happy with that. Definitely 8.5, 8. I think because I really loved it. The main thing was Sammy winning that over. WWE Crown Jewel. I really loved that pay-per-view. The main thing I love about it that I'm happy they did, and that is the women's, like how the women dressed. I hated every time they went to Saudi Arabia, they wore gigantic shirts. I hated that. It just looked so redneck, and I didn't really care about it. But they just put a full body suit on, so they fixed that problem. And I think that's perfectly fine. I'm happy. And the women's matches were pretty good. I loved it. The tag team titles and that right there. That was pretty good. I liked that. The main event was Logan Paul versus Roman Reigns, one of the bigger ones. It was great. I think Logan Paul did a great job. He showed that he can be a champion one day, but he needs to fix himself a little bit. But I think I love the intervention with his brother Jake Paul. Yeah, I think they did a great job. I'm happy that they pretty much revived the Saudi crowd of Crown Jewel. So I'm happy with that. So definitely for me, a 7.5 for the Crown Jewel.
All right. Now we move on to number 8, the AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling crossover, The Forbidden Door. Now, all three of us are going to discuss this one because Chris, for some reason, hates this show.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I just like 2 matches. And 3 matches, and that's it.
All right. Where are those matches?
It's going to be Will Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy. It's going to be the 4-way for the Atlantic title.
Yes.
And then finally, the best one was the Bullet Club versus the Dudes with Attitudes.
Oh,
and the Zack Sabre Jr. and Claudio.
Yeah, the masterpiece. The masterpiece of the night.
Okay, 4 good matches.
One of the best matches of the night was that Claudio match, and it was one of the best matches of this year, I'd like to say. Just 2 absolute world-class technicians going head-to-head in a, technical masterpiece. And then Will Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy was amazing. Easily one of the best matches in Orange Cassidy's career. I can confidently say that one right now. Yeah, the All-Atlantic Fatal 4-Way was great. And I will admit, the IWGP Heavyweight title Fatal 4-Way did underwhelm me, at least. But Adam Cole unfortunately suffered an injury during that match, so there's not really much, that can really be done there. The opening 6-man tag between Eddie Kingston's team and Chris Jericho's team was great. You got FTR winning the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championships, which was great as well. And, you got a pretty good main event between Moxley and Tanahashi, despite its flat ending. The only match I would not say I didn't really like was Rosa versus Storm. So overall, you got a pretty good show here. I'm happy it's out there. 7.5 out of 10 is my score. now that I'm looking back at it, which is the same score it gave it originally. I still feel that same sentiment.
Yeah, this match I loved the Forbidden Door myself. There were so many great matches, and I like to defend that Fatal 4-Way because the biggest things about that is that this was the first time they ever did a match, Fatal 4-Way match for the New Japan World Heavyweight title. So what's it called? Okada and Jay White. Well, I think maybe Jay White more, but Okada didn't really know how would I do this better in a Fatal 4-Way match. So I kind of defend that maybe it was just it's just unknowing that they did that. But it did suck that the injury from Adam Cole. But I think it was still a great match. Same time, the Tanahashi was very very sour, but I think was good for the moment they had. Every match was so good. The Atlantic title was great. FTR winning that title, winning the tag titles were great. The Jericho with Suzuki and the other people, and Eddie Kingston were great. It was a very good matches. Tony Storm and Rosa, I definitely fell flat, but still I do love the Forbidden Door. Can't wait for Forbidden Door 2. 7.5.
I'm gonna give it a 5. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It was good. It was a 7. There's 4 good matches. I just didn't care for the main event and maybe like 3 matches.
You don't have to lie. You could say how you feel.
I'm just saying it was a decent match, dude. It's just the main event with Jon Moxley and whoever the ace was that didn't care about it. And Tanahashi and then Chris Jericho, and it's just like, slap chops are overweighted.
He hasn't watched much New Japan, people.
That's not true. I saw like 2 matches that were like 3 hours long, and it's good enough. And it was just Kenny Omega.
And Okada.
And it's fine.
Yeah. All right, moving on to number 7. Chris, take it away.
So, AEW Full Gear was good and bad. There was surprisingly a match of the year was definitely done by Tony Storm and Jamie Hayter, and I was quite shocked that Jamie Hayter actually won because like literally that was the match of the night. It was so good. And then the funny thing too that we got, I think it was like 2 weeks before this that they announced that like Jeff Jarrett or Wild Slapnuts was going to appear in AEW. I was like, oh god damn it, here we go again. But their match with Darby Allin and Sting was actually a lot of fun. The only bad match I could probably say was definitely the Jade Cargill versus Nyla Rose, but that's not surprising because every match she's in is fucking terrible and it's a waste of time. And I don't know why she's the TBS champion. It's boring. And then for some reason, everyone seemed to praise Saraya versus Britt Baker, and I wasn't impressed at all one bit. And I know she hasn't wrestled in a long time and she was like medically discharged from wrestling, but I don't care. That was boring. And then Samoa Joe versus Barasa was also great. But definitely the highlight was seeing Jungle Boy beating up Luchasaurus in that steel cage match. It was quite insane, dude. There's just so many good matches to go all around. The Elite versus Death Triangle, of course. And then if you have Jon Moxley versus MJF, which was the highlight. I mean, the only good thing about it was that MJF initially won, but the match itself was so boring because MJF was getting his ass kicked. And then Jon Moxley didn't give a shit because he's just like, I'm just going to lose anyway, so I'm just going to hound it all in. So I'll just give it a 7.5. It's a decent pay-per-view. There's a lot of good matches and maybe like 2 bad ones. All I can really see.
A Riot match.
That match was so fucking mid. I don't care if she got injured by her neck. I don't care. I don't care if her boyfriend or husband is in a shitty emo band. I don't give a shit about that. It's a bad match, and you know it was.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
It was a Dark Revelation match. Freak you.
Moving on to number 6. WWE Extreme Rules. That was very good. And that was a very good reinvention of a pay-per-view that I dread watching almost every year. But this year, it was great. Well, not great, but it was really good. You got the return of Bray Wyatt, which was a chilling return, one of the best returns of the decade so far. A fantastic Fight Pit introduction into WWE. and a fantastic main event. That would be Rollins versus Riddle. You got a emotional storytelling piece with Edge and Balor, and it was fantastic as well. You got an underwhelming strap match, unfortunately, but you also got a really good ladder match on to counter that. You got a amazing opener, which is a 6-man tag Donnybrook match between the Brawling Brutes and Imperium. So yeah, fantastic. And yeah, overall, Liv versus Ronda, kind of a mid-ass match as well there, but overall, pretty good show when you put all that together. So overall, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Now, Berman didn't get to talk about this next pay-per-view with us when we originally reviewed it, but now I'm giving him the chance to be the only individual that will cover this next pay-per-view on this list. So Berman, take it away with number 5.
Yeah, so this is number 5, WrestleMania 38. This was a great, I love both nights. Every night had a great showing. I'm not going to, because there's so many matches, I'm probably going to go for the big things. Big thing, and probably one of my favorite matches of the night, Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins. And the biggest return of the century with Cody Rhodes coming back. It was a great pop. Everyone cheered. It was just so good. The match was amazing. McAfee versus Austin Theory. This was the time where Austin Theory was like the selfie boy and with McMahon. To me, I love McAfee. He's great. I love him. The big thing was the end of the match where McAfee versus McMahon. And that was a very funny thing to see, that McMahon wanted to fight against McAfee. But after that, Stone Cold came out and drank some beers, and Stone Cold stunnered McAfee and McMahon. So it was very funny. I love that. Rey Mysterio, Dominic with The Miz and Logan Paul, the first debut of Logan Paul. It showed that Logan Paul was a good future, but Miz betrayed Logan because of the spotlight. So whatever, that makes sense. The funniest match of the year, Johnny Knoxville versus Sammy. It was way too much fun. I loved that all the Jackass crew came in and helped Johnny win and used like a mousetrap. I think that was very funny. I loved that they did that. And there was my number 2 match of the night, Edge versus AJ Styles, the debut of the new Edge. And I love his music, probably one of my favorites of my favorite music. I think he did a great job. Then Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Kevin Owens. That was a great match. Unexpected for a lot of people, but I think they did a great job. And I'm happy that Stone Cold gave a show, so I think that was great. Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch, rematch. Rematch, and finally Bianca put down everything against Becky and won that title. And then the big thing happened was Damage Control came in SummerSlam, but still, I think that was a big thing for Bianca to win that title. But the biggest thing in the end of the match was the Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns winner take all. That was the unification match. It was not that bad. I think the unification match was very great. I think they did a great job at it. I was I was thinking it was going to be boring or something. But no, it was actually very great. I loved it. I think WrestleMania 38 was one of my favorites. Probably not all-time favorite, but up there as one of my favorite WrestleManias. Definitely let's say 8.5 out of 10 for me.
Now we move on to number 4. Chris, take it away.
So after the initial second pay-per-view, Ring of Honor, I had no faith in it whatsoever, and I just kind of came on a whim because Daniel bought the pay-per-view, and I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, I'll give it a shot. But it was actually probably one of the best pay-per-views I've seen all year, just for the fact that we had so many good matches, like Mercedes Martinez versus Athena. I'm glad we got like a new introduction for Athena, and she took the title. after losing to Jade Cargill again for the TBS. I thought all hope was lost. I'm like, oh goddamn it, we're never gonna see her do anything. And then as for the second match with Silver and Glory versus Shane Taylor Promotions, it was just overall pretty cool because like literally in the middle of the match, I think it was Keith Lee that ends up like hitting Swerve with like one of his moves, and like pretty much he gets all pissed off and just slaps him and leaves the middle of the match just for Swerve to pretty much clutch it by himself and beat two of the best guys around. And then Dalton Castle and the boys was kind of stupid in the beginning, but it picked up really good. Of course, they're gonna lose to Brian Cage because they're building up so much, but it was overall it's a decent showing. And then the third match between Garcia and Yuta was also an instant classic because Garcia was pretty much kicking Yuta's ass the entirety of this match, and he made him cost all of his rope breaks in the first like 5 minutes of the showing. I think it was, Daniel, right, or something like that. And then
something like that.
And then definitely the best one was FTR versus the Briscoes for the hardcore dog collar match, where initially like literally it was just pure insanity because literally like Dax Harwood loses a tooth in the middle of the match, and at one point I think one of the Briscoes gets like no, it was Dax. He gets like cornered and he gets like a trash can thrown in his head for one of the Briscoe brothers just to like kick it and actually like split open his forehead. It was like one of the most bloodiest and goriest things I've ever seen in wrestling. It was pretty much cool. And then Samoa Joe was kind of like whatever. Yeah, I knew he was going to win, so it wasn't that surprising. And Chris Jericho versus Claudio. I know we made a review early this week saying that it was more of a character work for Jericho, him attacking announcers, but it wasn't the greatest thing. It belonged to FTR and Briscoes. But overall, it was a good pay-per-view. I'm just going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Coming in at number 3, WWE Clash at the Castle, which is the highest ranked WWE show of the year, and rightfully so. So Chris and Berman are going to talk about it.
You go ahead, Berman. I'll go after you.
All right. Clash of Castle was a great pay-per-view. I think that crowd was amazing, and it makes sense how long they waited for this, and I think they did a great job. The Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, Asuka versus Damage Control was a great match and shows Damage Control power. Was great. Edge, Rey Mysterio, and the Judgment Day versus the biggest betrayal ever. Love that match, and it was the best betrayal ever with the low blow to Rey Mysterio by Dominic. It was great. Liv Morgan versus Shayna. Not that bad. I love Shayna. I wish she would have actually won that match, but I hope that she wins against Ronda Rousey sooner or later. I'm hoping very soon. But I think to me, probably number 2 match of the night, maybe number 1 for me, is Gunther versus Sheamus. I loved that match. It was so freaking good. And I was loving it to me that Sheamus brought back his high cross because it was one of my favorite finishers. And I think it was a great match. I think Sheamus should have won that match too. But I think it was still a great match to show off. But the biggest match of the night and so much electricity was Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre, which everyone thought, all right, Drew McIntyre is going to win this because of the whole thing. It was an amazing match. All the no interferences whatsoever until the end of the match where, surprise, surprise, Solo Sikoa comes out and helps his family pretty much. And even if it was kind of sad to see Drew lose, but it was still great because I love the ending where, actually funny enough too, I forgot too that in the middle of the match too, Austin Theory tried to cash in his title, his Money in Bank, and gets knocked the hell out by Tyson Fury. So it was very funny. I love that. But then at the end of the match, Drew McIntyre was in the middle of the ring. Tyson Fury came up and just started singing songs with him, and you can hear the whole crowd just happy. It was just so loud there, but I think it was just one of the best crowds of WWE so far of the year. And I can't stop saying I think Clash of the Castle was one of the best WWE pay-per-views of this year. Definitely an 8.5 for me.
Yeah, same here, dude. Because literally, I think the biggest thing ever was Sheamus getting pushed because like for so long, like everyone forgot about him. Like literally, well, I think besides this, like the last time he was getting pushed was like maybe like back in like 2008 or 10. I think that's
Well,
when.
this is the thing. The last time he was the world champion was 2015, but the last time he felt like a big deal was realistically 2012, and then he kind of became a big deal again for a little bit of time in 2020 and 2021. And I feel like ever since the pandemic, he's just kind of been on a roll, and he's slowly been, making people appreciate him more. So I feel like that's what it is.
Yeah, and then like I said, the match pretty much it was amazing. It was cool seeing Gunther win, and then Sheamus looking like a badass, even though he lost. The only thing I disagree, of course, is Drew McIntyre losing to Roman Reigns, but that's a whole different thing. Wrong choice. But overall, the show was decent, except for of course, for Liv Morgan. But Liv Morgan's kind of mid anyways, hence her name. But it was decent. I'll give it an 8 for the pay-per-view.
All right, now we go on to the top 2. Number 2, AEW Revolution. Well. Talk about a great pay-per-view. You begin the show with Eddie Kingston versus Jericho, a pretty good match that made Chris Jericho tap for the first time in AEW, and Eddie tried to give him a handshake, but Jericho denied it, and this kind of furthered the issues that would lead to one of the best matches I've seen all year, which we'll get to on the number 1 pick. You also got the legendary dog collar match between Punk and MJF, one of the best matches of the year on this show. Another one of the best matches of the year took place on this show, which was the triple threat tag team match for the tag titles between the Young Bucks, Red Dragon, and Jurassic Express. You have Jurassic Express performing their asses off, and then you got Red Dragon and Young Bucks, have this drama that's just slowly brewing for the match, and it's a masterpiece of a tag team match. It's literally what tag team wrestling is, in my opinion. And then you also got other great matches on this show. You got a great main event between Adam versus Adam. Get it?
No.
And then you also... Damn. You ruined my role. Anyways, people. Fuck you, Chris. Anyways, there's other great matches like the Face of the Revolution ladder match. With amazing match, Wardlow winning. That kind of was like, the beginning of his push this year. And, him getting involved with the dog collar match also furthered his push this year. So, great stuff right there overall. So, I will say the only downside is that I feel like the main event should have been Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa, with Rosa winning the title instead of waiting, a Dynamite or 2. I feel like that moment should have just happened right then and there. You also got, I can't believe I almost forgot to mention, an amazing match between Mox and Bryan. And then you got a crazy 6-man tag team match involving Sting, Darby, Sammy, Matt Hardy, and, Private Party, if I'm not mistaken. Crazy shit right there. So overall, when you're looking at this pay-per-view as a whole, you're actually looking at a great show. And Jade Cargill having one of her best matches in AEW with Ty Conti or Ty Mello. So yeah, I just gotta say, great show, man. One of AEW's best pay-per-views or shows of all time, if I'm being quite honest here. 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with you that, because definitely the highlight of the matches of this pay-per-view was definitely the build-up between MGF and CM Punk, and it's probably one of his greatest matches you'll ever have as AEW, because I'm pretty sure he ain't coming back. It was a classic, dude. Like, literally the build-up for this was hilarious, and then there were so many good moments between them. But the only thing I disagree, and it's not that the Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley match was bad or anything, it was just like the wrong person to win that feud. It was lame. It should have been Bryan Danielson. And then, of course, we'll give praise to Jay Carl when it's due, because it was actually pretty good for what it was. And then, of course, you got AHFO, Andrade, Matt Hardy, and Isaiah versus Darby and Sting was also fun with Sammy Guevara.
Okay, so it wasn't Hardy. I fucked that up. It was Andrade.
Yeah. See? You're not the only one that hates Andrade. Tony Khan hates him too. It's
I
okay.
like Andrade. I didn't mean to forget him. He was actually one of the highlights of this match. Now that it's all coming back to me.
And Hook versus QT Marshall. Just kidding. That match was fucking terrible. But anyways, those are my. Huh?
That was a pre-show, if I remember.
Yeah, it was like whatever. But those are probably my favorite matches. And you, Berman?
I don't know, there's a lot of great matches on there. I think the main event was probably my favorite. There was a few other matches I really did care about. The Andrade match was pretty good. I liked it. The dog collar match was probably one of my favorites, and with the betrayal of Wardlow, shows Wardlow getting off of the shadow of MJF. I think that was just a great match between those two.
All right. Now, are you guys ready to talk about number one?
Yes.
All right. Now, number one, AEW Double or Nothing. I can confidently say this is the best wrestling pay-per-view, not just AEW pay-per-view, the best wrestling pay-per-view of 2022. And if I'm being quite honest, with the exception of Full Gear 2021, this is, in my opinion, the best show AEW has ever produced. And yes, you can kind of say the Owen Hart Cup matches were, kind of underwhelming, but they were mid at its worst. Let's keep it real here. They were just average matches. And that's literally the fact that the worst thing about this show is having average matches is actually quite saying something, because every other show on this list has at least one bad thing about it. This show really has nothing bad about it. And you got MJF versus Wardlow. While you can say that was underwhelming, I would disagree. Wardlow doing that powerbomb symphony on MJF was very entertaining. Actually, the crowd was into it, and it all led to MJF doing that huge pipe bomb a few days later and become a champion anyway. So if anything, this kind of helped MJF in the long run. And then Hardys versus Young Bucks, kind of a dream match for most people, and it was amazing in this match. In this show. House of Black versus Death Triangle put on an absolute fantastic six-man tag team match, one of the best six-man tags of the year, and it was fantastic. And then you got Martha Hart giving a great speech as well on the show. You got Kyle O'Reilly and Darby Allin having a great little sleeper hit as well. And then, you have freaking Thunder Rosa versus Serena Deeb, which was another great match. The AEW Tag Team Championship match, amazing, which was a triple threat between Jurassic Express, Swerve in Their Glory, and Team Taz. The main event, CM Punk versus Adam Page, kind of controversial due to Punk's, buckshot lariat botches. But outside of that, the match is just great. It really is. But of course, the highlight of the entire night, this amazing, fantastic night, is the Anarchy in the Arena match. So much chaos, so much story put into it. This was Eddie Kingston's shining night. And I have to say, this is just literally one of the best matches AEW has ever produced. And I can even go as far as to say, yes, I did see this live. I admit it. But I've also seen WrestleManias live. I've seen SummerSlams live. I've seen Raw and SmackDowns live. I've seen bigger shows live. But do you want to know the truth? This was the best show I've ever seen out of all of them. And not only that, comparing every show to this show, nothing can really compare to just how huge everything really was. The card really just showcased how incredible the roster is at this point. It was, at that point, AEW's best roster ever in its short 3 years. So AEW killed it and put on, in my opinion, one of the best pay-per-views in the past 10 years, maybe even past 20 years. So I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that much because you talked a lot about it, but I did love this Double or Nothing. I watched it, and it was amazing. The Anarchy Arena was one of the best matches. The main event was controversial, but it was still a good match between those two. The thing that that I didn't like about it, really, that's a very minor, was the winners of the Owen Hart Cup. I wanted Samoa Joe to win. I wanted Ruby Soho to win, not the couple of Adam Cole and Britt Baker. That's Tony Khan's fault, completely on that. But even though every other match was amazing, there was just so many good matches on there. There was Jade Cargill match. Didn't care that much about it, but it was still okay match for Jade Cargill. But the match was amazing. The pay per view was probably number one. 100% deserves to be number one. Definitely 9 out of 10.
And Xavier, 9 every match, including there was even the built up because I believe this is where Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland actually took the tag team belts, right? This was the match that
draft retained.
But either way, it was just amazing. There was even like I think because we saw that live, Daniel, because like there was a moment, I don't know if it appeared on the pay per view, where like they were kind of making fun of. I think it was like Team Taz like screwing up like a move or whatever, and they were just kind of like mocking them.
It was Jim Ross. Jim Ross had a rough night on commentary for a lot of people, and so he was just not feeling Ricky Stark's moonwalking on the ropes at all.
That too. And also too, we have the House of Black defeating Death Triangle was also amazing. And the Hardys match was kind of what's up?
The long-awaited Julia Hart twist.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. That's when she's finally left the Varsity Blondes. I'm like, oh my god, she's gonna do something. And also too, I mean that Warlord MGF thing was just mostly drama. I was kind of sad because I was just like, I waited in the hot sun and saw somebody pass out for him to get his ass kicked 3 minutes. But we'll get that match in the future anyways where MGF beats him. Everything was good except for the championship title match because that was very sloppy and it was the wrong champion. And I still think it's such a waste to like drop the Adam Hangman to drop his belt to CM Punk, but whatever. I guess I'm the only one that thinks that. But it was a really good pay-per-view. I'm going to give it a 9. It was one of my favorites ever.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. So that was every pay-per-view of 2022. There were some misses, but the majority of these pay-per-views were good. So that is quite good to say. A good year for pay-per-views for wrestling in 2022. Hopefully 2023 can be an even better year in pay-per-views for 2023. So thank you all so much for watching. If you watched all the way through, I really appreciate you guys. And please click that subscribe button if this is the first time you're watching us. It really helps us grow this channel. And we would love to, do this for a full-time living. We just love to record these videos. We love talking about wrestling. We love talking about Marvel. We love talking about movies and music in general. We'll talk about whatever, Just put down in the comments below if there's any video ideas you guys have or want to see from us in the future. So, thank you all so much for watching. I've been Daniel.
I've been Berman.
And Chris.
And we'll see you all in the next one. Take it easy.